The director of the National Museum of Korea, Yoo Hong-jun, has made a formal apology over the quote-unquote controversy surrounding a photo with HYBE Chairman Bang Si-hyuk that the museum posted and then deleted from its official social media account. So Yoo Hong-jun admitted that he didn't think it through. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about Bang Si-hyuk's latest updates, and then we're going to talk about what happened last year, about exactly a year ago. Okay? Once again, parliamentary audit. So, during a parliamentary audit in 2025 by the Culture, Sports, and Tourism Committee on October 22nd, 2025, Representative Ji Jong-oh, Jin-jung-oh, sorry. So, this guy of the People Power Party criticized the museum, saying the National Museum of Korea has seen a surge in visitors thanks to the K-culture boom, but posting a photo with Bang Si-hyuk right after signing a MOU with HYBE and then deleting it the next day was inappropriate. This photo. Now, Representative Jin also pointed out that Bang Si-hyuk is currently under investigation for alleged violations of the Capital Markets Act. And then he said in 2019, right before HYBE's IPO, he said the company had no plans to go public. The statement is suspected of having misled investors into selling their shares at low prices. He's been banned from leaving the country since August. Taking a photo with someone under investigation and posting it publicly wasn't a careful move, he said. Although, did he really say? Okay, the suspicion. All right, he at least used the word 의혹, suspicion there, instead of saying it as if Bang Si-hyuk has been confirmed of saying those things. Anyways, so that's what he has said during a parliamentary audit. Now, Director Yoo of Korean National Museum responded, I saw the MOU with HYBE as an opportunity to make the National Museum of Korea better known worldwide through BTS. BTS. I took the photo with Chairman Bang after the signing because it's also a personal acquaintance. Same university. They went to same university. A junior from my university days. Both Yoo and Bang studied aesthetics at Seoul National University, says a Korean article. Mr. Yoo concluded, I want to apologize here today. I will make sure that something this small doesn't bring any trouble to the institution again. 이 자리에서 사과드린다. 이런 사소한 일로 기관에 누를 끼치지 않도록 하겠다. So yeah, he apologized. So here's some context for those of you who have no idea what they're talking about. So HYBE has signed the Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, with National Museum of Korea early October, and also Korea National Museum Foundation to boost the global reach and value of K-culture. And the agreement was signed at the National Museum of Korea on October 2nd, and it brings together it is designed to bring together the strengths of the museum's cultural heritage and HYBE's global entertainment power. So HYBE Chairman Bang Si-hyuk, Bang, and Museum Director Yoo Hong-jun, and Foundation President Chung Yoo-seok attended the signing ceremony. Now, the turning point came when the museum posted a photo of its director, Mr. Yoo, smiling alongside Bang Si-hyuk. This photo, taken after the MOU signing ceremony. And the image was uploaded to the museum's official Instagram account on October, when was it? Yeah. And within 24 hours, it was deleted, and that single act, the posting and quiet removal of a photo triggered quote-unquote debate, criticism, and political commentary that was made today. So yeah, I have already talked about that on my channel before. Now, speaking of Bang Si-hyuk, here's a latest update. It's an article that came out on October 20th. Wait, before that, what do you think about the apology that Mr. Yoo made? Because after all, Bang Si-hyuk hasn't been convicted of anything, right? There isn't even a trial yet. and legally he's presumed innocent. But in the court of, I guess, public opinion in Korea, like suspicion alone can be enough to make someone like radioactive, so to say, in official spaces. So what happened with National Museum of Korea isn't really about guilt, I would say. It's about optics, right? So the museum probably wasn't worried about legal consequences. And they were worried about looking like they were siding with someone already framed negatively in the media. And because it's a public institution, they have very little tolerance for reputational risk. Even if the risk is based on perception rather than fact. And I guess this is where things get messy, like when suspicion alone dictates how institutions should act. It starts blurring the line between accountability and mob pressure, because a person can end up socially punished before anything has even been proven, which happens a lot nowadays, not only in Korea but around the world, I would say. So yes, those of you who question, you are absolutely right to point out that Bang hasn't been convicted. Right, and that's why the apology from the museum director can feel less like owning a mistake and more like bowing to online outrage, quote unquote outrage, although I would say from selected part of the online space. So yeah, it's not about what actually happened, it's about how quote unquote loud the reaction got. And I guess that's a bigger problem in itself, because it sets a precedent where due process matters less than sentiment. Now let's talk about this. Speaking of Bang Si-hyuk, here's the latest update. An article that came out on October 20th. Police says no progress yet on Bang Si-hyuk's alleged 190 billion Korean won unfair gains under legal review. It says, Bang Si-hyuk, chairman of HYBE, is currently under investigation for alleged violations of the Capital Markets Act, specifically for engaging in unfair trading activities. He appeared for, we already know that. He appeared before the Seoul Metropolitan Police Agency's Financial Crime Investigation Unit on September 15th. So that's what happened last month. Now, on October 20th, an official from the Seoul Metropolitan Police Agency's Major Crime Investigation Unit said during a regular press briefing that the investigation has not made significant progress. 진척 사항 없다, 특별히 없다. So he said there's nothing particularly new at this point, the official stated. As previously reported, there was an additional round of questioning. We're thoroughly analyzing the collected evidence and testimony while also conducting a legal review. So, yeah, they've been investigating Bang Si-hyuk for months, and there's been multiple police summons and endless media coverage and intense online comments, yet officially, the police just said there's no particular progress. So I guess that's a huge gap between perception and actual legal development. And I guess this is exactly why the whole museum photo situation might feel unfair to some people, because public institutions are already reacting as if Bang is a convicted figure, when in reality the case hasn't moved beyond legal review. So there's no indictment, no trial, no verdict, just an ongoing investigation, one that doesn't seem to be advancing quickly based on these articles that came out a couple days ago. And it raises some questions, if the investigation is dragging on without clear progress, why has the narrative around Bang already hardened so much for some people? And how can someone be treated as guilty by association in the public space before any evidence is tested in court? And why are public institutions so quick to act on perceived guilt rather than legal reality. So, the slow pace of the legal process in the case versus the speed of public judgment creates a kind of, no-win situation. So even if Pang is eventually cleared, the social damage is already done, I would say, at least when it comes to Korea. And institutions like National Museum of Korea are already treating him like a liability, not because of the law, but because of how things, quote unquote, look. So it's a classic example of how in Korea, public sentiment often moves faster than due process. And once someone is branded in the media, it's almost impossible to undo that damage, regardless of the legal outcome. Or maybe not. We'll have to see. Now, if today's parliamentary moment, or the recent parliamentary moment with Yoo Hong-jun, showed how powerful perception can be, then exactly 1 year ago, when it was when the audit process itself tipped over into something truly absurd. And to be honest, if anyone should be saying, like what Yoo Hong-jun said, the director of museum, 생각이 모자랐다, I didn't think it through. It's not you, Mr. Yoo, Director Yoo. It's the people who turned a serious democratic institution into a stage for a spectacle, like nonsense spectacle. So let's go back to October 2024, a year ago. The parliamentary audit of that year should have been about labor policy, like worker safety and minimum wage decisions, or accountability of key labor-related institutions and accidents. But what dominated every headline was the issue of worker deaths at Hanwha Ocean, where the owner was caught taking a selfie while smiling with Hanni, or labor disputes, or policy failures. And if you remember, it was the site of Hanni, New Jeans Hanni, walking into the National Assembly. And she sat in the same chamber. She stood in the same chamber where lawmakers question senior officials, hold agencies accountable, and debate national policy. Except that the questions weren't about labor law. I mean, I don't know. Because from my perspective, they were about just a nonsense, quote unquote, dispute inside HYBE. And a quote unquote conflict that should have never been conflated with the national audit. And the image of an idol wiping away tears was splashed across every portal, every media agency. Every major outlet led with her testimony, right? And while that was happening, the actual contents of the audit, like the part that impacts millions of ordinary workers, was pushed to the margins, barely covered, forgotten within hours. And a lot of people and some journalists criticized the situation. And yeah, what you're looking at is one of the representatives with a sticker of the New Jeans Bunny character attached to his laptop. And here's a kicker. This wasn't some spontaneous or organic moment, because it turns out the night before the audit, or was it a couple nights before, Hanni met with Min-jin. By the way, after the audit happened, while Hanni was having a live stream with Nugent's Minji, she said that when she cried, when she wiped away her tears, when she cried, she noticed a lot of journalists taking photos more. So she was hearing the shutter camera sounds, and that's what she talked about. Now, as it turns out, the night before, Hanni met with Min-jin and lawyers for nearly 4 hours. on October, actually a night before Hanni let everybody know that she would attend the audit. So the meeting between Minhee-jin, Hanni, and lawyer happened on October 8th. And the entire appearance was, after all, strategically prepared. And months later, when the ignore her, quote unquote, ignore her controversy went to court, we learned that the key piece of evidence used to justify all this, a Kakao Talk transcript, had been selectively edited by Minhee-jin's party. And Minhee-jin's leading questions were cut out, the questions that she asked Hanni. And Hanni's hesitant answers were left in. So it painted a story that was sharper, more dramatic, and far less truthful than the original conversation. So let me briefly read you this dispatch article that came out. When was it? March 8th of this year. I probably covered it already. So the following is a Kakao Talk conversation submitted by Minhee-jin to the court during the injunction hearing. It was used as evidence in what became known as the Ignore Her case. The Ignore Her incident has often been cited as a key example of alleged workplace bullying within HYBE. In her live stream and during the parliamentary audit, Hanni claimed she had been ostracized. But the real origin of Ignore Her wasn't where the public was led to believe. It didn't start with Hanni's words. It started with Minhee-jin's mouth. Ironically, Minhee-jin's own Kakao Talk messages ended up revealing the full story. June 2nd, 2024. Hanni said to Minhee-jin through Kakao Talk, I heard the outlet manager say something like, just pretend you don't know and walk past. Hanni, I don't remember if those were the exact words, just something along those lines. Hanni, I think one of the members said something like, yeah, I'll just pretend not to see them. Minhee-jin, did the manager tell them not to greet you? Hanni, I'm not sure. Minhee-jin, then what exactly felt off to you? Hanni, that the manager said something like that. Minhee-jin, ignore her. That part? Minhee-jin, did all the members ignore you? The article says, but at the time, Hanni's response was measured and mature. I honestly don't care about them all, so please don't worry about it, Hanni said, June 2nd. September 11th, 2024. New Jeans went live on YouTube. During the live stream, Hanni publicly stated she had been told to be ignored by the outlet manager, meaning staff protocol manager. We ran into another team's members and manager in the hallway on the 4th floor of HYBE. The manager said, ignore her loudly enough for me to hear. That's what Hanni said on September 11th. But back on June 2nd, her first account sounded very different. I don't remember exactly what the words were, just something like pretend not to see them. And I'm not sure if the manager actually told them not to greet me. That's what she said, June 2nd. In just 3 months, Hanni's vague recollection solidified into a direct accusation. What she once described as something like that became an exact quote. She also used Minhee-jin's phrasing, ignore her, almost word for word. Nugents emphasized the live stream was their own decision, claiming they wanted to avoid speculation that Minhee-jin was behind it. But according to Kakao Talk messages obtained by Dispatch, Min was fully aware of and even coordinating the timing of the broadcast with the members' families. Family member, are they going live on YouTube now? Minhee-jin, we pushed it back a bit because Bunnies dropped something good. Minhee-jin, thank God they're setting the stage for the girls. Family member, so it's at 7 p.m.? October 15th, 2024. Hanni then appeared at the National Assembly as a witness in a parliamentary audit held by the Environment and Labor Committee. She testified as what was described as a victim of workplace bullying. Victim of workplace bullying. I still believe that this was ridiculous as a Korean citizen. At the hearing, she cried as she said, I greeted the group members first, and they came back out 5 to 10 minutes later. The manager told them to pretend they didn't see me and ignore me. Hanni said, October 15th. I don't understand why this happened to me. I can't understand why someone would say something like that in a workplace, Hanni said, October 15th, while crying. But Hanni's initial description from June 2nd painted a different picture, the article says, one of careful observation rather than confrontation. She described each member's reaction. Island member 1 looked surprised when she saw me but bowed politely. She seemed startled and uncomfortable. The second member saw me. She seemed shocked, but she still bowed, but she just seemed very shocked and uncomfortable greeting me. Her body and face kind of froze. I mean, I thought at the time when I first read this, I thought it was kind of, the way of her description kind of sounds hilarious. Her body and face kind of froze. Someone seemed a bit cold in her body language when she realized it was me, and she just kind of short greeting and a bow. This is Hanni of New Jeans evaluating the gestures and body language of island members. And another member just looked at me and bowed and said, 안녕하세요, very softly, but also she seemed very stiff and uncomfortable. Just you can tell from their body language that they're uncomfortable just even seeing us. Of course they would, given what you... given what Minijin and some of your fans or many of your fans did to them. See, I totally understand why the girls would be uncomfortable and awkward. Okay, she actually said it. When they see us, because there's been so much rivalry. Oh, yeah. I forgot that that's the word that she used. Rivalry between our teams in the media and inside the company. So I fully get that. Let's move on. Now, over time, the article says, her memory didn't fade. It became sharper, more certain, and each shift in that narrative aligned with the moment involving Minijin. Ignore her was never originally Hanni's phrase. It was a keyword Minijin introduced. It was built in Kakao Talk, confirmed in the live stream, and amplified at the Parliamentary Audit. The article, so this article ends by highlighting the concept of motivated reasoning. When people accept weak evidence that supports what they already believe while applying a harsher standard to anything that contradicts it, right? And it ends with this quote, motivated reasoning makes us embrace evidence that fits our beliefs and ignore what challenges them. David Robert Grimes, Fake and Fact. Well, yeah, so that was the article by Dispatch that came out March 8th. Now, one more thing. This was also something I covered, and then there's a CCTV footage. So the court found no repeated harassment. CCTV footage clearly showed island members bowing at a 90-degree angle. And even the judge noted that the claims didn't hold up. So here's an actual portion of the document, the court document that I have already covered. So here's a footnote. Footnote 9. Even based on the debtor's own claims, meaning Eugene's claims, the island members greeted Hanni when they first encountered her, and this fact can also be confirmed by the CCTV footage submitted as evidence in this case. And the court also said, the island members also appeared to have greeted Danielle, who was walking down the opposite hallway. So there we go. Even the court said it. But by then, the damage had already been done, right? And it wasn't just damage to HYBE or Eyelet. It was damage to the public's trust in the parliamentary process. which is exactly why I decided to cover this in today's video to celebrate the anniversary, I guess. Because like once you let an idol become the headline of a state audit for something as nonsense as this, the message isn't about labor rights anymore. It's about who can turn the audit into the biggest show. So today, Yoo Hong-jun had to, sit there and say he didn't think it through, right? Because of a photo. But where was that same level of reflection last year when a parliamentary audit was effectively hijacked to serve a manufactured corporate drama by manufactured by Minnie and her party? And if anyone should be apologizing for poor judgment, it's the lawmakers who greenlit that circus, ain't it? And it's the officials who let a nationally televised audit become a stage for a private company's, was it Minnie? For Minnie and Eugene PR battle, right? And it's the media outlets that turned the labor policy session into, like tabloid matter. Because let's be clear, parliamentary audits are not talent shows. They're not, an entertainment platform. They're not supposed to be. And they are a core part of how democracy functions in this country. But last year, that institution was quite cheapened deliberately. So I still think it's a pretty ridiculous thing that happened. So yes, if you are talking about who should say, 생각이 모자랐다, I should have thought it through, it's not the museum director. I think it's the people who allowed, encouraged, and amplified this moment. The people who should have protected the integrity of the parliamentary floor, but instead turned it into a spectacle. And 1 year later, the real absurdity isn't just that it happened. It's that there's been no real accountability, for it. No reflection, no correction, just business as usual. Or at least I haven't heard about anything like that. So here's a question. What's more dangerous? A single photo taken at an MOU signing or a national institution being used as a stage for a corporate and fandom/Minigen driven narrative? And who should really be apologizing? And how many more ridiculous anniversaries like this are we going to let pile up before the line between governance and spectacle disappears entirely? So leave your thoughts. Now, before I wrap, I know when people outside Korea see stories like this, they would say it's so ridiculous and they call Korea a joke, right? I've seen plenty of those comments. But let's be honest. Korea isn't the only country where politics occasionally turn into a stage for, spectacle. I mean, around the world, democratic institutions have their own moments of theater. You know what I'm saying? In many places, I know politics has long since stopped being a purely, serious policy-focused space. Institutions that were meant to debate real issues often get swept up in spectacle. And serious hearings become viral moments nowadays, and carefully planned procedures turn into headline-grabbing theater. And once a story gets picked up, the emotional narrative usually drowns out the actual substance. So I would say it's not about any one place being more ridiculous than another. It's about how modern politics everywhere has become vulnerable to media logic, like to performance, to optics, and to the chase for attention, for clicks. And the same dynamic that made last year's Hanni hearing so frustrating isn't uniquely Korean, I would say. You're welcome to disagree, because it's a symptom of something much bigger, I think, like the way political spaces can be easily hijacked by noise, by emotion, and again, spectacle. So I think it's about what happens when institutions stop controlling the narrative and the narrative starts, controlling them. And I would say that's not a Korean problem alone. That's a political reality we see in many places nowadays. Just wearing different faces. But again, you're welcome to disagree. So here's where I want to leave the conversation with questions. When political spaces get swept up in spectacle, who benefits and who loses? And if perception can overshadow facts this easily, what does that say about the strength of democratic institutions? And how do we as ordinary citizens tell the difference between real accountability and a carefully staged performance? Let me know all your thoughts by leaving comments in the comment section. See you guys later. And as always, let's stay positive, respectful, and classy. Peace and love. Bye-bye.